All right, so one of the things we also want to talk about is mounting the kiosk stand hardware to the kiosk itself, which means you include this plate and then you'll include mounting plates like Dan has. And you might have one, you might have two, you might have three, you might even have four. So these are basically what we call the sandwiching brackets. We have a couple other videos that go into detail on this. So we won't spend a ton of time, but we will at least give you some previews on how all of it works. One of the things we want to also mention is the back of this unit is removable. It is good practice to remove it and kind of loosely wire up what you need to. So say for example, okay, so if I want to grab one of these, what I would do is wire it up, take a USB port. Then at that point, that's one less thing I got to worry about. Same thing with the power adapter, same thing with everything else. And then it'll just fit through here. And so when I end up getting the proper mount to this, which will be this, I'll end up putting this here and this here. Now, again, it's not so important that this is perfectly wired right away, but what's important is that I've wired these things up and now I'm ready to go. Because what makes it difficult, especially is if you've got a downward mount. A downward mount is something like this. And now the system's kind of locked to where you can't get at it easily without removing the bracket first, okay? So that's just word to the wise. Figure out what you're gonna plug in, power, Ethernet, USBs, and so forth. Get it all plugged in and then put this on, okay? Now you might not have this bracket. Instead, you might have this bracket, but not to mount a proximity or barcode reader. Instead, you might be using it up top, in which case the top mount, it's the same bracket, so it's a multi-purpose bracket. The top mount is going to go ahead and go on the top like this, at an angle, once it's pointed like that, and it's installed on the back, it'll end up it'll be facing forward. So it'll be right at the normal horizontal. So
and I can go ahead and screw that together if you'd like, so we can.
Okay, that would be perfect. So Dan's going to go ahead and maybe explain the screws that you're going to use.
So you'll have a baggie of 414 screws, or 440 screws, excuse me. And what you'll do with those is mount the gray flat plate that comes on the back of the temperature sensor to this device. And then once you've mounted that, that's where the temperature sensor can be attached and then further screwed in with some screws that come along with the temperature sensor.
And we have a whole video that outlines that particular procedure that Dan has done. Dan will go ahead and do that, but we'll continue to talk about some of the other brackets and how those work. So there's a few brackets that you might have received. One is this 45-degree bracket. So again, that can mount the barcode scanner. The barcode scanner would look like this. Okay, with the barcode scanner, you should have the screws already in it. Okay, we got 2 screws that are Phillips head screws. Those are pretty straightforward. You undo the screws, you line them up on the bracket, and the bracket's going to be facing downward. And basically, so picture that off to the side. Picture this like this. Okay, and when you do these brackets just without anything, you'll see that I line them up with the 4 backs, the 4 screw holes on the back, and then I can adjust them up or down, okay? So they're completely adjustable. I want to get that down probably to the low end so I can fit that barcode scanner without any issues, okay? Now, if I flip it over, what's going to happen is I'm going to have, this is just to show you how this is actually going to work. This barcode scanner is going to be right here, and it's going to sit at a 45-degree angle right off of the PC, nicely looking downward so that you can walk up and scan your driver's license or your QR code for pre-registration, okay? Now, this same bracket, Dan's using to put together the temp. And the final use case for this is we've got the RFID scanner like this, which has 2 small screw holes. And if we know that you've ordered a proximity scanner, we will include 2 very small screws. These are M3, 5, or 6, and they have a pointed end. And so they will go into these 2 holes here, through this bracket here, and keep it mounted at the bottom, okay? That's if we bottom mount this. We also have the option, depending on how many accessories you have, we can have what's called a side mounted bracket. I'm gonna
absolutely.
steal this from you. So this side mounted bracket, same concept. This will go through here. This one only has 2 holes because it's only a single purpose to just hold a proximity reader. And you can pop these little plastic pieces off and flush mount it, or you can even just leave them on and put the screws. They'll still work either way. And then you just simply take the screws that are going to be included on that and you put them through the back and secure it. If for whatever reason you say, yeah, you know what, I don't want to use the screws, it's perfectly fine. We do the exact same thing sometimes, especially if we're going to use them at trade shows or whatever, where we will actually use that Velcro solution, and the Velcro will work just as well right on here, where you can use the industrial strength Velcro to secure it. Same thing for the barcode scanners, that works as well. The screws are just give you a little more stability, maybe make it less easy to mess with or turn or that sort of stuff. So that pretty much covers the brackets and how the accessories can be attached. So the next thing we'll talk about is actually the stacking part. So I'm going to put this off on Dan's table for a second. Flip this over. Now, stacking these. Again, you might have 1 bracket, you might have 2, you might have 3. You may even have 4. There are a few different options on stacking. First of all, this plate has to end up in the very top of your situation. So then you can simply affix it here and let it stand. Put 2 screws in the back on here to secure it down to the kiosk from the inside. And then you'll put the back of your kiosk on and lock that in with its 10 screws onto the back, and you're done. So that's kind of your final step. But before you can do that, you need to take a bracket like this, and you're going to put it like this, except you don't want to put these screws in just immediately. You want to take your sandwiching brackets. So if I have one of the side barcodes, I will take that, I will put it on the side here, and I will use that, okay? If I have a bottom mount, I will take a bottom mount, and I will put that down at the bottom here. If I have a top mount, I will take a top mount, and I will put it at the top here and sandwich one of those. And so basically you end up sandwiching several different brackets. I'm going to come here, put this here, and then now these cables will come down. Dan did a really nice job kind of pushing these cables down. We often supply a wire tie, and you can either push these off to the top, push these off to the side. At some point you got to route these down to get them into the kiosk, but you will have the power cable and the Ethernet cable. This is going to plug into your Ethernet, this is going to plug into your power. Now, the sandwiching back brackets work where you put this down, you put however number of brackets you want to put on here. Again, 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you'll end up putting just 2 sides of the brackets, so you'll offset the temperature scanner to one side. So then maybe you got a camera over here, or maybe you just want to offset it so that it's not right in front of the screen. You have several options with that, but you can either put it right set in the middle, or offset. But once you end up figuring out where you want things and how you want them laid out, again, you don't even have to, you only have to have 2 screws that hold these brackets in. So you could go down as far as you want, or you could go down only a little bit. And then same thing with the side bracket. You only need 2 screws holding this at any given time. So your goal is, depending on where this fits, to fit it in. Now, definitely a thing you want to do with 2 people. This makes your life really easy. So Dan's going to help me here and help hold down as I center this, because all these holes need to line up. And the more you have, the more difficult it is to get it perfect. So we've got that hole pretty good here. So Dan's we usually try to get one of these in here pretty good, just to the point where you can then start to rotate it.
And these are the M4s that come with the kiosk here.
Oh, and a good point too about the M4s and the brackets themselves. What's important too, you may have 2 or 3 different versions of those that were supplied. And it all depends on how many different types of brackets you're connecting. If you're connecting 1 bracket or 2 brackets or 3 brackets, you might need different lengths. So if ever you run into a situation where you have the wrong size screw, it might still be in your packaging, or you might have to talk to us. We have made mistakes before where we didn't send the right length. Now, we talked about this a while back of being able to still use that. I'm going to slide in front of Dan here. Now, I will say that there is a chance, because we've had to do this, where you still can slide this in. So even if you don't want to do what we told you in the beginning, you still can sneak that in there. So the last thing we're going to do is just basically mount this onto the kiosk. So remember, we went ahead and basically tightened all these down. We also went ahead and tightened this and made sure all these were nice and tight. We've got 3 brackets on it. We hold this like this. You want to hold the other end, Dan? And then this is where we would take the opportunity to make sure all these wires were nicely put down the center. For the purposes of this, we're just going to go ahead and put this on, and we would put 2 screws through the bottom. Again, this would have gone through, and in fact, if you forget, we found a little cheater where you lift this up, then kind of push it through the base of the stand. And then finally, when you're all done, you put this down, and then there's 2 screws through the back of here that you'll attach the bracket to the stand itself. And then you power up, and there'll be another series that you can check out that shows you how to do the configuration of the software itself. Or again, you can call us and get a hold of either your implementation specialist or your customer success manager or your sales rep to schedule some time and get all the software set up and customized to your use case. Anything else you want to add, Dan?
I think that's fair.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.